Hello and welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. The Awakening Together Sanctuary is an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The host of Herein Lies the Peace of God is Reverend Jacquelyn and Eckert, the President Minister of Awakening Together. Our co-host is your favorite anarchist preacher, Reverend Glen Ganaway, integral scholar. The Course in Miracles says this about discerning one truth. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. How wonderful thy holy name. Now I can see with God's own vision, and I see peace instead of pain. Yes, I see peace instead of pain. I can see peace instead of pain. Amen. There it is. Appreciate that. How are you tonight, Jacquelyn?
I'm excellent. How are you, Glenn?
I'm really good. It's been in kind of an overcast kind of day here, moving from the 40s into the 50s. It's perfect lighting. It looks like a movie set. Everything's just a little bit wet, and so everything's like sharp. It looks like a movie set here in Brooklyn today because the lights filtered and everything looks I don't know, curated.
You're such a romantic.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take every single bit of that. Every single bit of that. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's lovely.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's it like in? You're in Colorado, right?
Oh yeah, just a little bit more snow. What do we get today, girls? About 3 to 5 inches, something like that. Just a little bit more.
Sounds pretty.
I think we're up to like I don't know, 140 inches, something really. I swear, no, I'm not kidding. Laura's laughing. I'm telling you, that's the truth. When I looked before these last 2 snowstorms, it said we'd had 109 inches for the year. So, yeah, so it's a lot.
I think we've had about a foot and a half.
Oh, poor baby.
So I know. New York's pretty good about plowing and all that kind of good stuff, but it does get piled. I don't know. Maybe it does this in getting off the subject here, but maybe it does this in you guys have they just plow it to the corner. Yeah. And so if you need to get across the street, you have to go up. You have to go up a little mountain and then down into the street. You have to do that there too.
Yeah, that's what Laura's just written here. Yeah, 140-inch mountain in the parking lot.
Here you go. Yeah, same. Yeah, same. Yeah, exactly. So it's one thing and another. We've managed to get, I think, we are up to
section or chapter 20.
Yes, we have managed to get to chapter 20. There's only 29 chapters.
Wow, we must be doing something right.
I know. We might get through that before the end of the year.
With any luck.
We'll do this series and take 2.5 years to get through this series. That's lovely though. I've enjoyed working with this. So what's the question tonight?
Well, before I tell you the question, I want to tell you what Arizona wrote. Arizona said, I was in sandals with a dress today in Nova Scotia. Yeah, life is good.
104 degrees, or 104 inches of snow in Colorado, and sandals and a sundress in Nova Scotia.
Well, that just shows you we just do the whole spectrum here.
Yes, we do.
This place we call Earth.
Everybody's included.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so where are we? We are on, as we said, section 20, chapter 20 of the Teacher's Manual of A Course in Miracles. And the question is, what is the peace of God?
We talk about that a lot, don't we? What is the peace of God?
Yeah,
Do
we
you have
do.
do you have do you have, do you have fun working with that this week?
Yeah. Well, I can't say that I worked with that. I mean, you put me on the spot
All
there,
right, well,
Glenn.
that's you know
Um,
I
I
studied
mean,
this stuff all week. It's brilliant. It's
Frank.
fun for me. It's fun for me.
Well, and frankly, it's brilliant. It's not anything new, but it's nice to see it all collected in one place here, because the questions are the same. The explanations of peace, the explanations of forgiveness, all of those things are the same. And I love those questions. How is it recognized? The peace of God. How is it recognized? How is it found? And how can it be retained?
What
Those
it
are
what it
the
is? What
questions.
is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, how about you? So you said you had fun with it. Tell me.
Oh well, she uses I'm teaching. We're up to chapter 7. If you like, because of part of my teaching schedule is I teach a section of the 12.8 pages a week, and I'll teach a section of that as you get through 669 pages for the year, and she wants to talk about joy this time. So the word that jumped out at me from this and my this week has been joy. So I'm really
Sweet.
I've had kind of a new kind of like stumbled onto a kind of a new understanding of the present moment and joy and peace. And so we'll get into that. It's been fruitful. It's been a very fruitful week.
Fruitful week. Good. Listen, before I read, I want Yolanda to share her fingernail polish.
Oh,
Oh, it's so
yes,
pretty.
yes.
That's
Uh-huh.
pretty. Oh, can you see it, Shauna? Show them again,
Do
Yolanda.
this.
Isn't that pretty? Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, yeah. My my pewter. She runs silver. Her blood is like silver.
She just popped a vein and put down her fingernails, right?
You're looking right into Yolanda, right there, just pure silver, all the way down.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry for the detour. Shall I read?
No, please do. There's only 6 paragraphs, which is interesting because we've had we've had 2 11-paragraph weeks in a row, and she's going to harken back to a little bit of that. But why don't you get started and see how far we get? Because I'm really interested in. We got a good group here, so I'm really interested in seeing how this lands for other people because I think it's interesting.
Amen. Okay, here we go. What is the peace of God? It has been said that there is a kind of peace that is not of this world. How is it recognized? How is it found? And being found, how can it be retained? Let us consider each of these questions separately, for each reflects a different step along the way. First, how can the peace of God be recognized? God's peace is recognized at first by just one thing. In every way, it is totally unlike all previous experiences. It calls to mind nothing that went before. It brings with it no past associations. It is a new thing entirely. There is a contrast, yes, between this thing and all the past, but strangely, it is not a contrast of true differences. The past just slips away, and in its place is everlasting quiet. Only that. The contrast first perceived is merely gone. Quiet has reached to cover everything. How is this quiet found? No one can fail to find it who but seeks out its conditions. God's peace can never come where anger is, for anger must deny that peace exists. Who sees anger as justified in any way or any circumstance proclaims that peace is meaningless and must believe that it cannot exist. In this condition, peace cannot be found. Therefore, forgiveness is the necessary condition for finding the peace of God. More than this, given forgiveness, there must be peace. For what except attack will lead to war? And what but peace is opposite to war? Here, the initial contrast stands out clear and apparent. Yet, when peace is found, the war is meaningless, and it is conflict now that is perceived as non-existent and unreal. How is the peace of God retained once it is found? Returning anger in whatever form will drop the heavy curtain once again, and the belief that peace cannot exist will certainly return. War is again accepted as the one reality. Now must you once again lay down your sword, although you will not recognize that you have picked it up again. But you will learn, as you remember even faintly now, what happiness was yours without it, that you must have taken it again as your defense. Stop for a moment now and think of this. Is conflict what you want, or is God's peace the better choice? Which gives you more? A tranquil mind is not a little gift. Would you not rather live than choose to die? Living is joy, but death can only weep. You see in death escape from what you made, but this you do not see, that you made death, and it is but illusion of an end. Death cannot be escape, because it is not life in which the problem lies. Life has no opposite, for it is God. Life and death seem to be opposites, because you have decided death ends life. Forgive the world, and you will understand that everything which God created cannot have an end, and nothing he did not create is real. In this one sentence is our course explained. In this one sentence is our practicing given its one direction. And in this, the Holy Spirit's whole curriculum is specified exactly as it is. What is the peace of God? No more than this: the simple understanding that His will is wholly without opposite. There is no thought that contradicts His will, yet can be true. The contrast between His will and yours but seem to be reality. In truth, there is no conflict, because His will is yours. Now is the mighty will of God Himself His gift to you. He does not seek to keep it for Himself. Why would you seek to keep your tiny, frail imaginings apart from Him? The will of God is one and all there is. This is your heritage. The universe beyond the sun and stars and all the thoughts of which you can conceive belong to you. God's peace is the condition for His will. Attain His peace, and you remember Him.
She starts out there with get quiet. It's this peace that you're looking for is not like anything that you can ever compare it to or anything like that before. So it's just like, let's create a new category. It's like, this isn't something that has a comparison. It doesn't have opposites. This idea that she goes, what is peace? She goes, then she goes into say, well, you're going to experience it as a contrast, completely different than everything that you basically know, because you're still way, way, way interested in managing war, and just like managing it. We don't even think it can be eliminated. You're just now managing war. And because you want to manage war, you're all caught up in the paradigm of finding happiness or truth or your a raison d'etre in the material world, or power over other people. It's complete. That's why you cannot look for this. You cannot look for peace. The peace of God, the promised peace of God, anywhere other than our nature, our natural state of being. And that's what chapter 7 is. This is what got me, like, all of this is like coming in and at me and working with this same concept at the exact same time. The peace of God is this sense of being interested and blessed and blessing and experiencing and sharing this joy we have at being, having being, at possessing consciousness or awareness or anything. The sheer just joy and interest in doing that. Because there's nothing to be said. There's nothing to do to make it happen. It doesn't require me to, put my ducks in a row or learn another language or, do a specific dance or something like that, go through the ritual, swing, it doesn't require all of that. She ends up saying, peace is the will of God. Peace is the way things work. Peace is already working in your life, in our lives. It's not unusual. It's not strange. It's not beyond us. It's not rare. So it's like, but until we can recognize the desire for anger, the desire, the anger and all of this, we really can't experience or work with peace because we're still caught up in our own. Well, she brings back in the magic idea again by picking up the sword, because she goes, you picked up the sword again, and that's a throwback to, I think, question 17 about the pupils and the pupils in magic, when she says lay down your sword. You don't even realize that you picked it up and that you're trying to make it real and this sword is in the hands of magic or otherwise a will that cannot work, my own personal will, and that's the opposite of peace, to pick up this sword and to do that. So I really enjoyed. That's kind of my blanket sort of overview to get it started. I can go into a lot more detail, paragraph by paragraph, because
you no, you couldn't do that, Glenn. That's not your style.
I loved this. I really loved this.
And I feel that. I feel the joy that you have in extending that, and I think this is exactly what this is talking about. So thank you for sharing your joy. Really.
Thanks.
I appreciate you bringing up. I had not read in that. It's funny. Gosh, what I forget from week to week, but I had not read in that the idea of magic. But I remember clearly, and it's just a few pages back, this definition of magic and how clearly magic was defined in section 17. How do God's teachers deal with their pupils' thoughts of magic?
I did get that right. Yay!
Yeah, no, that was good. And it was so clearly defined there that magic is the belief in a will other than God's, and in this own personal will. And as I reviewed this evening, it was what really struck me was this continuing theme in my life, and in what we're reading here in the Manual for Teachers about the illusory nature of self-will.
Yeah.
Because what we often think as students is that we've got to somehow overcome our own will or surrender our will to, oh, please be gentle with me, right? Okay. That there's actually something going on there when we're exerting our own will. And this makes so clear. No, that is the dreaming. The belief that you have a separate will, that you could want things differently than they are, that whole thing is an illusion.
It's suffering.
And certainly the root of all suffering. But that makes all of this very gentle. It's not like, I don't have to, like you said, I don't have to hold my mouth right, learn a new language, learn how to do a new dance, make sure that I go exactly through the... No, there's nothing that has to be done to attain what I already am. That's an impossibility. That it's absurd. Another portion of this that really, really struck me was this paragraph on how do you retain the peace of God once you find it.
Oh, yeah.
And I love, it's like, I love, she's like, listen, you're not even going to know that you slipped out of it. Right? Until you recognize the war is around you all, and the thing about that is so cool is that's exactly right. You're going to be going along going, yeah, I am a good spiritual student. Hey, you, you're not even going to recognize it, right? Yeah. And the moment you recognize it, it doesn't say, then you should feel really bad. No, it says, then all you need to do is ask yourself, what do I really want? And how often do we hear that, right? How often do we hear that in the teachings here at Awakening Together? That's the only question. Just stop for a moment and think of this. Is conflict what you want, or is God's peace the better choice? And that is always the question.
Right.
That is always a question. Would I rather choose God's peace or run after this illusory will, this thing that doesn't even exist, in the delusion that somehow that's going to satisfy all my wants and desires and ultimately make me happy? I mean, just take a second and go, oh, where do I find myself right now? Am I in the peace of God, or have I slipped back into this delusion, which is the experience of conflict and suffering? Yeah. So
I love it. I love it. Chapter 7 is what I'm working with in the regular teaching, and she calls this. And chapter 7 is the gifts of the kingdom. So we're going to be looking at I think like the last section, the state of grace. So in that section, she goes, please develop some discernment. And, and ask yourself what kingdom that you're built. Ask yourself, what kingdom are you building to live in? Look around you. Is there conflict and stress and everything like that? Is this what you look around you at the kingdom that you've built? Is this what you want? Is this your goal? Is this satisfying you at all? Be honest as whether or not this is satisfying you at all. It's because believe it or not, it's the joy, this collective, creative presence, this collective deep now, I'm beginning to call it, that's the only thing that really satisfies us. She says, you're not going to be happy making your business war. Yeah. You can do it. There's lots of people that we know make definitely their whole shtick is war. So
well, yeah, many of us sitting in this room, in fact.
Conflict. The value of conflict.
Well, as you said that, you said be honest. Is this really satisfying you? And heard through the ego mind, that sounds like, the being honest with yourself sounds like quite the challenge. It sounds like, like you've thrown down the gauntlet. Can you be honest with yourself?
Yeah.
But the truth of it is that the honesty is the key to salvation. The honesty is the gateless gate to liberation from the tyranny of the ego. Frankly, because, as we know, ego makes these grand promises and can never deliver on them. And until, oh, no, do that thing. That's going to make you happy. Argue with and buy this thing and whatever it tells you to do. All that stuff's going to make you happy. None of that's ever true. So being honest with yourself isn't like necessarily taking a fearless moral inventory. It's not asking that much. It's asking, look, you did what, you followed your illusory will.
Yeah.
How's that working out for you? That's it. It's a real simple question. And that's the kind of honesty that ego makes fearful. In fact, it makes it so fearful that you'd rather just I'm just going to die. That'll solve this whole thing, right? And it's like, it's not that hard. You don't have to go to that extreme. Just say, is this making me happy? And if it's not, drop it. Just drop it. Drop the sword.
I also I grew up, maybe you did too, with the idea of your reward will be in heaven.
Yeah.
You know,
If you're lucky enough to get there, yeah.
I know. If the bouncer that day knows you,
Right.
So it's like, and so she goes, yeah. All your problems, you really do think that death is going to solve all of your problems. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever experienced really deep depression, or somebody who's susceptible to chronic depression, mm-hmm. that really is that's a way of life. If I just stopped feeling, if I just stopped existing, it would be better. It would just be better, and so she's asking us even to look at that in our own minds, even to look at our creation of death and end as a solution to anything. Because the elimination, contraction, restriction, ends. All those things are complete antithetical to what the truth is. They all.
Yeah. Which is life, right? And of course it's an illusion, because the only thing that can be is life, and life has no opposite. In Liz Cronkite's book, she talked about the ontology of A Course in Miracles, and she talked about God and the idea of not God. Mm-hmm. What are y'all doing there in the background? Y'all wait.
We're gonna go walk a dog here. She's gonna go listen and she's gonna go walk a dog.
Who's gonna walk the dog? Oh, Laura is?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Aw. Okay. I'm sorry. Bye, Laura. She says
she's gonna be listening on the show.
I'll tell her in a minute. But at any rate, so it's this idea. Liz Cronkite brought this same idea to me, at least, in her memoirs of gosh, what is that?
A Course Student Awakens, right?
Say it again, please.
A Course Student Awakens.
Yes, that's the subtitle. It's memoirs of something, but yes. So Liz Cronkite's book, she talks about. Not God is the tiny mad idea. And so, all there is God. All there is life. Mm-hmm. So how you think you're going to get out of that is the idea of not God. There's no escape, but there's no need to escape. because there's only one thing going on here. And if you just peek under the covers or behind the curtain, you will find that it is joy. It is peace. It's your belief that there could be something else going on here, death, your own will, opposition, conflict, any of that stuff. That the belief in that illusion, the belief that something could be different than God, something could be different than life, there's your trouble right there.
And she even uses that metaphor. It goes, as soon as you pick up the sword, what happens? A heavy curtain comes down. A heavy curtain. What else has heavy curtains? Stages, performances. It's setting out. It's a now the curtain comes down, and now we're in a performance. Now we're acting out things, and we're not ourselves anymore. The other thing that you do with a heavy curtain is to block out light, like during blackout curtains and things like that,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And especially if you live in New York, or if you've ever worked a night shift, blackout curtains are a lifesaver because you can get your circadian rhythms correct, so you can stay up at night. So you need to have complete blackness in order to do that. It literally is designed to not let light through. And she says she says often that your mind is light if you'll let it shine on the world. You're made of light. If you will let me shine, remove yourself from this equation, then we can shine our light on the world. That's the peace, the happiness of giving yourself away, the happiness that is sharing, the joy of being and doing the thing we have endless energy to do. And what I loved about what I thought was interesting about this was, she emphasizes that peace is a relationship because it's built on the foundation of forgiveness. Let things be exactly as they are. If I don't understand it, I'm upset, or the way things are make me angry, which nobody ever gets angry because things are different, right? I carried my special tea to work in my purse, in my little purse over here. And I screwed it. I make a point. I leave work and I screw the lid back onto my tea thing, little Gatorade thing, and I put it in my purse so it doesn't spill all over my purse.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I usually wrap it in a plastic bag as well and put a rubber band on it because I've made the mistake of not doing. So I was in a hurry today and I said, I always screw on the thing. I'm always putting on the bag. I'm sure it'll be fine. Today, I spilled tea all inside of my purse today. Yolanda got to listen to me go, I do this over and over and over again. I'm so careful not to mess up this stuff, It's like it goes right from 0 to 60. It's like, and it comes right back down too, just as quickly, but it's like, wow, I still work with, as much as I've done, there are still triggers. There are still things that just go right past all of my training, all of my stuff. So that I can come back and I can work with this and I can see it and I'm not afraid of it. It's like you said, it's just really gentle.
It is gentle. And I would suggest that seeing it. I mean, there was a time when you went, yeah, and that does piss me off, and then on you went, But seeing it, gently seeing it, and saying, well, I no longer want to go from 0 to 60 in a flash.
Right.
I no longer get any juice out of this anger that seems to pop up unbidden. Just seeing it. That's it. I mean, that's your job. Saying, oh, look at this. I found this thing that is obviously still there because I went right? And saying, but I don't want that. That's healing. That is the healing.
It didn't feel, my anger doesn't feel empowering anymore.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It feels like it's taking from me. It feels like I'm bleeding out somewhere. Like energy is just draining. I really do.
Helen Avery was teaching yesterday. I'm trying to remember who she was reading. I think she was reading from Dr. David Hawkins.
Okay.
The last book, I think. Anyway, I don't know the title of the book, but she was talking about energy depletion, and she was talking about how each fear requires additional energy to build this defense mechanism against the world, basically. Yeah, and so we really have a choice of how we want to expend our energy, right? Is it to continue to keep this illusion of a separate self with separate interests alive, or to give it over? Yeah.
The thing that I was going through today that struck me was in the third paragraph. The third and the first paragraph, when she talks about joy, she says that giving is our joy, and that the kingdom of God is our joy. And the way the Course talks about the kingdom, the kingdom of God is always almost always the present, the collective present of oneness and wholeness and completeness. That's the kingdom. That's the kingdom of God. She goes, that's our joy. So we have an innate sort of desire to be complete, to have that completed of expression, like to become, like the goal to be, like people say, the goal to be awakened. It's not necessarily, for me speaking, it's not a goal to get somewhere. It's an orientation or an attitude in which everything's like on the table. So my goal is not to run, really, more than it is to like get somewhere. So when she says the kingdom is my joy, in relationship to what is the peace of God, just dovetailed so much into this understanding I'm getting and coming to about my interest in being present, my interest in the natural solutions that are already here, because the world works and moves, and I don't have to think of, we were giving the example the other day of like, I don't have to go into the backyard and make sure that the tulips and stuff are blooming, or like remind them what they are. You're a red bud and you're a thing, and you need to monitor all of this. I don't have to monitor any of it. I don't even have to monitor you or nothing. And this desire to, the desire to restrict and control and what I call monitor bodies through space, is this sort of unhealthy use of the desire to awaken. So it's like, oh, I'm trying to make something happen instead of let creation flow through me. The peace is getting in line with the flow. The peace, for me, I'm understanding, and the joy that is sort of like the telltale sign that I'm on the right track. This sort of like this constant confirmation of directional My joy is a directional confrontation of
confirmation.
Yes, that.
Yeah, it is that. I'm reminded your story about making sure that the tulips are actually blooming correctly and actually becoming tulips. Reminds me of sorry, I'm quoting everybody else tonight, but of a story that Paul Hederman was telling on Tuesday. He said Ramesh Balsekar had said to him, he's like, okay, do you have a home? And he's like, yeah, I got a home. He's like, so do you have a job? Yeah, I got a job. He's like, so when you leave your home to go to work, do you have to remind yourself that you sit at work all day going, I have a home, I have a home, I have a home? He's like, no, you've got a home, and when your shift ends, you go to it. Point being, this passage feels like it's saying that this chapter feels like it's saying the very same thing. There is no opposite to God, period. And so it's not something it's not a forward movement. It's not a okay, I'm only God, there's only God, I'm only that, I'm only God. It's not that. It's removing the blocks to the awareness of that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? Uh-huh. And so this belief in a self-will, this desire to be right, this desire to have conflict, anything that you have a desire for that is not God, is illusion. It's absolute illusion. So be honest with yourself. Do I want to continue to participate in this illusion, which I know is going to bring me nothing but misery, or would I rather rest in the peace of God? Because once those blocks are removed, that's the result. The peace of God. You have a home. It's not something you got to go home and build every night. It's there. So any movement away from that is a movement. Any movement is a movement away from that. Anything that's not God is something that is the sword that I have picked up. And the moment I pick up that sword, like you said, like she said, the heavy curtain drops again, where you forget you have a home, where you forget what you actually are. So in your example, you where you spilled your tea and went rawr, and I get the roars about stuff too. For a moment, the curtain dropped.
Yeah, it did.
You thought something should be different than it was, just for a moment.
I felt picked on.
You're right. Oh, betrayed.
Because I do everything right. I make sure I did it. I set up this system so I don't spill drinks in my bag. So it's like, so that's I can do this. It's like I can realize that I can like let go this forgiveness, like that act, that quickly forgive myself, quickly forgive the world, quickly, and see, and like Yolanda was right there, and she goes, oh, this could have been way worse, He goes, oh, you just didn't, not very much slipped out, she's making it all, I know, she's making it all better for me.
But really, it's this idea, this, you hit on the victim idea, but and of course the Course warns us, beware the temptation to see yourself as a victim, because that very belief in being a victim is duality, right? It's like, that is the tiny man idea. That is the belief that something different should be going on here. I should not have tea in my purse, and then that seems so silly. I mean, nobody wants tea in their purse. I mean, it seems like that's just, but it's extreme to make the point, right? And it sounds absurd till you hear somebody like Byron Katie talk, who's like, "Oh, I'm so glad tea spilled in my purse," or when she had her purse. When she left her purse at the restaurant and then it wasn't there when she went back after this long trip, that story that she tells. And she's like, "Aw, I guess somebody needed that lipstick that was in there and that $20 bill." And that, I mean, never did she go, "This should not be."
Yeah.
It's just, and so we talk about finding the flow, but we forget how closely related that is to loving what is, letting all things be exactly as they are. We forget that, and oh my goodness, that was a sweet incident. I don't want this to sound like I'm going, Glenn, you forgot. That's what we do all day long, every day, right? We are in the forgetting. If we're not in the peace of God, we are in the forgetting.
Yeah. And I really do think, oh, I've picked up the sword, and now I'm like a knight in the Mad King's army, with the ego, and it's like, I know, I've got a battle to do, I've got to win, I've got all kinds of stuff, I got an agenda, I need to be creating allies, I've got enemies. It isn't just one. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It isn't just one thing. You cannot, like she says, you cannot pick up a little bit of it. You can just get a little bit pregnant. You just can't. I only can take a little bit of truth. It's like it doesn't. It doesn't ever work that way.
Well, and again, the beauty of it is the question that she asked: "Are you feeling peace?" Oh, if you're not, you must have picked up the sword again. That's okay. Just drop it. Ask yourself what you want and drop it again.
The goal, that's part of the rules for decision making. She goes, recognize what is real, and then evaluate what you want, make a decision, then move in that direction. Is this align with the goals I say that I have? To be a cooperative component, to be just Glen, without anybody, without any, just Holy Spirit telling Glen what to do. Just Glen here, not my mom, not my dad, not the news, or any. There's this. So there we got a little.
Good, John. Thank you.
We got a fencer. I didn't even know we had a little fencer acronym. Yeah, that's definitely me. So so just choosing. It's like that is. as a, as a smart white guy, I pick up this. I mean, I've been told that the sword should be my first tool, So it's been huge to me to like just not immediately pick up the sword, because there's people around me going, "Your sword, sir."
That's great. That's great.
So I was like having for a while. It was really just constantly refusing to get to sell my piece. To give what Earl Purdy said. He goes, "You just don't realize how cheap your piece is. You just have a real cheap piece."
It's like being a cheap date, right?
That's exactly what he's going. What he's going for. I'll never. I just don't forget those.
Well, and it's great, and the way she says it, I really love it. Where is she talking? I just glanced down at it again. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, you will learn as you remember, even faintly now, what happiness was yours without it, that you must have taken it again as your defense. And that's perfect. I mean, it's perfect for that. It's an active move away from your peace, and you won't recognize it until you actually find the sword in your hand.
I know.
And then the only thing to do is to drop it.
Mm-hmm. She gives you a promise. I love the very poetic promise that she makes at the very end. Yes. And I want to open it up a little bit, but you make the promise. She goes, "If you'll do this, if you'll value peace, and you'll make the goal, if you make the goal peace for you, if you'll understand your natural state, and you'll be able to recognize conflict and be able to share the gift that you are with the world, if you'll do all of this, what you will find is the whole universe will be given you." And
in fact, again, she refers to it here as your heritage.
Yes. So to me, like the way the Course in Miracles, the universe is like understanding like the material world. The universe is like basic understanding, a way of that the material world and how it's manifest. And then she says, "You will be given the sun and the stars." So that's kind of the metaphor I heard her say is, you will be given even things that you cannot fathom and don't even know how to conceive of yet. The sun and the stars, they're out there even beyond the things that you can't even imagine. If you'll be present to the peace that's already here, you're passing up your ability to work with the moon and the stars and the universe. And the last thing she says is, you will be given all conceivable thoughts. So it's like, that's like collective intelligence. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to be present, if you're going to align yourself with peace, you don't have to know everything or learn everything, because it'll all be given to you. All the thoughts that you need to have to perpetuate, or to give the example, or to share yourself, or to work with what is real, to be an example of the peace, of the three-dimensional peace of God walking around on the planet. All of all conceivable thoughts will be given you. The universe will be given you. Go ahead.
That's not what I read.
All conceivable thoughts. What she said.
She's like, can I read the sentence?
Yeah.
It says, the universe beyond the sun and stars.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is grammatical. There's a comma there.
Uh-huh.
The universe beyond the sun and stars. The universe beyond all of the thoughts of which you can conceive. Mm-hmm. Not including the thoughts which you can. It's beyond all of those thoughts. That's the way I read that sentence.
Yeah. So it's not just my thoughts. It's beyond even what I can conceive of in my thoughts.
It's beyond anything you could ever possibly hope to conceive of.
Yes, and so the answers I will need will not come from thoughts I generate. That I will have access to all solutions. The answer will come to me, and I won't have to. It's beyond everything conceivable, everything I need to work with. If it's here, then I can, it's available to be worked with. If it's not here, then I don't need it.
Yes, that's funny. I'm sitting here chuckling because I'm remembering who was that. I can't remember who it was. You'll recognize the story. These folks were going, well, that's not what it says. It says this. and they like tore the page out of A Course in Miracles. There you go. That's the whole point. It's all meaningless.
I have yet to do that. I'm on my second actual book. My first one fell apart, so I'm on my
Well, yeah. I mean, it's certainly, and certainly that's what we've seen time and time again. Is that we end up here at the same place. And I know we want to let other people share. I want Glenda to look at one thing here, and
Sure.
And that is forgive the world, and you will understand that everything which God created cannot have an end, and nothing He did not create is real. In this one sentence is our course explained. In this one sentence is our practicing given its one direction. And in this, the Holy Spirit's whole curriculum is specified exactly as it is. And so, we talk about forgiveness and what is forgiveness. And for me, it's seeing beyond appearance to the reality that all is well, that all is one, that nothing need be different than it is. Forgiveness is God rather than not God. Which is still is actually a silly way to say it, because God is without opposite. Mm-hmm. I just love that she says, you got one sentence here that explains the whole course. Explains everything you ever need to know.
And it's in the chapter on peace.
Well, and it's the name of the program, quite frankly. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. It's the same sentence.
It was just, that's been, if I have to say that there's been one thing in A Course in Miracles that's been the hardest thing for me to reconcile, is that I don't need to take direct action on what I conceive as those responsible for suffering. It's been and this work with peace and this work with joy has been really just incredible for me, because I've said this here before, but I have had esteem in anger, being appropriatly angry, I've had esteem in it.
It shows how intelligent you are, right?
I'm mad about all the right things, darling.
That's right. That's right. Well, and I think there's a bumper sticker, or maybe I've just imagined it, but it seems like there's a bumper sticker that says, if you aren't angry, you're not paying attention.
Yeah. That's the story I tell. It was on the back of my car for many, many years. If you're not mad, you're not paying attention. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. So this, to realize on the other side of it that I actually do trust this process now more than I ever thought I actually probably could. I actually do trust what's real more than I trust what I'm making, my thoughts or the things that I have to wrestle to the ground with or material. I actually believe more in what is Course in Miracles calls the truth than I do in actually the passing or the decay or the voice of death and things like that. And I wouldn't be able to like say this like a couple of years ago. I would have said the same thing, but I know now that I've much further understand. And I've pulled a lot of the plug or the interest in this the sword, the carrying around a sword or being angry or being correct. There's so much of that has been laid down because I do actually what the whole point of doing all that is to get peace, is to enforce the peace, to be a peace officer. So so the irony of all of that has, for this past month, has just been, breathtaking.
Thank you. I want to thank you all also for the opportunity to demonstrate what's being talked about. I just loved it. I'm like, that ain't what it said.
No.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful to see that in real time, that there was that there was an attraction to going, well, he's reading that sentence wrong. Who gives a rat's ass? You know?
That's not how, I know it's written that way. So, but it's like, that's also, that's how I see it.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. So thank you for.
We've got 5 minutes. I want to make sure that somebody has anybody has a shot at talking about how they've any pulls away from how is peace found. Seek the conditions. I love that. Seek whatever you want. You need to seek the conditions for it coming about. That
has to be the primary focus. That's right.
The basics. So, anybody have something they'd like to add to the discussion?
He means Shauna, Arizona, Yolanda. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I've been able to lately look at things that would usually get me all worked up and just sort of immediately go, do I really want to do this to myself? Yeah. And even if I may have a hard time letting go of the thought quickly or whatever, I still keep the willingness going. I still keep saying to myself, do I really? Is this really what I'm interested in doing? And it just, the time lapse between herein lies the peace of God, and the rest of it is so much smaller now. So much smaller.
Lovely. Thank you.
Because nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. That is really, you're right. I'm so, that is the course in 3 sentences.
Yeah. I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday about that old saying, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. It's exactly that. Yeah. Is this what I really want?
Mm-hmm. And forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools I have ever run across. And understanding forgiveness and what that actually means, that it actually shows me, gives me a map of peace, is just absolutely extraordinary, from which all creation comes. When I'm able to get inside this collective now, where the peace, I say I want all this, and yet it's just like, so when I catch myself in that, it's so delightful. I'm like, yeah, I messed up again. Yeah.
Yay.
I'm serious. It's like, I remember this. I look at this. I tell people in my classes all the time. It says, put a red flag in that feeling, in that understanding, in that frustration, in that habit, or whatever it is. Because there's peace beyond it if we can see it, if we work with what is. Last words, Jacquelyn.
I love you.
Those are always perfect. Those are always perfect. Love is what we are. Love is what we do. And I'm so grateful to be here with you. And I get to learn and grow and share. And
Amen.
That's marvelous. Oh. There we go.
You've been listening to Herein Lies the Peace of God with Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert and Reverend Glen Ganaway. To find out more about Jacquelyn and to donate to Awakening Together Sanctuary, go to www.awakening-together.org. To find out more about Glen and to donate to the Mighty Companions Ministries, go to www.glenganaway.com. That's GLENGANAWAY.com.
Love you.
Love you. Good night, everybody.